So the Conservative manifesto was released today, and in the wake of that, on Sophie Ridge's Politics Hub, she interviewed the Culture Secretary, Lucy Frazer, to talk about these issues and these policies and what's happening in the manifesto. And apparently, this interview is a real car crash. Let's have a watch and see what happens.
I'm pleased to say that the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, Lucy Frazer, joins us now to discuss the Conservative Party manifesto. Great to have you here. Thank you
nice to be here, Sophie.
In the studio. I guess I started the programme talking about, what's the story of this election? All kind of great campaigns need a narrative. So what's the story of the manifesto today, do you think?
The story of the manifesto is 14 years ago, we inherited a very poor economy where Labour, as it has done every single time it's been in power, overspent and left us with no money. And we turned the economy.
Literally just talking about the fact that they still do the Liam Byrne note thing. 14 years down the line, still campaigning that it's everybody else's fault. Just saying that 5 minutes ago. And here she is. The very first thing is talk about the Liam Byrne note, doing the Greg Hands meme. This is very, very funny.
Economy around, and we was turning a corner, and then we had COVID. And what the Prime Minister, then the Chancellor, did was stand by people, back them up, pay their salaries to make sure that the economy continued to thrive.
And again, Rishi Sunak had to be forced to do this, remember. He didn't want to do it, but Boris Johnson railroaded him into it. Like, this isn't an issue of Rishi Sunak's doing. This was Boris Johnson that you can have to thank for this, the one that you all got rid of. And of course, with regards to Labour spending too much, there is no evidence to show that countries with high debt to GDP ratios have worse economies than those with low debt to GDP ratios.
Spending £400 billion. And then straight after that, we had the energy crisis caused by the war in Ukraine, where we paid bills of people. And that meant that we've had a period where the Conservatives have been supporting people who needed support. And notwithstanding that, what we've done over the last 14 years is turn the economy around. What the statisticians have said is that we bounced back from the pandemic quicker than most other G7 countries, that our economy is growing faster than most other G7 countries. And what he is able to do now the economy is starting to turn a corner, is set out a plan for the future. And what that plan for the future is tax cuts, not tax rises, as you will see under Labour. It's secure borders and it's security for our future.
I mean, there's a couple of things to kind of pick up there. First, I think some of our viewers might be asking if it's really credible to say that, the economy is in the state that you said is right now. They're feeling it in their pockets, their mortgage rates. You say that growth is rebounding, but growth has been, pretty limping along the bottom for a while now.
By for a while now, she means ever since 2010, because we've had crappy, anemic growth for the entirety of that period. But mortgage holders had low interest rates and house prices were going up. So the economy was good. And then Liz Truss happened. And then the only demographic in the UK that matters, pensioners and mortgage holders, got the brunt of the bad end of fiscal policy from the government. And suddenly, the economy is bad now. We've noticed. The journalists in the UK have now noticed that the economy is bad because mortgage holders and pensioners have been affected. Poor people affected by the austerity years completely ignore that. Riots on the streets, that's just people kicking up a fuss for no reason. What's that? Liz Truss has made life worse for people who have mortgages and pensions. Well, this is a real problem and we're going to report on it forever. Why weren't you reporting the anemic growth all of those years ago when sensible George Osborne was in charge, huh?
But I just want to pick up on what you said about tax cuts, because Ed Conway's just been showing us the numbers, and taxes are still due to go up under these plans. Yes, less quickly, but taxes are due to go up overall, so you're not cutting taxes.
Well, let me deal with both of those points. So first of all, what I said is the economy is starting to turn a corner. We see that in two ways. We see it in terms of the figures. So inflation's come down from over 11% down to just over 2%. That's a significant turnaround of the economy. But I think we're also seeing...
How's debt doing?
Well, debt is projected to fall, which is what the Prime Minister committed to do. But what we're also seeing, and we're just starting to see it, I see, and I've been canvassing in my constituency day in, day out, knocking on doors, and I think what we're starting to see is people feeling the effects of that. Not totally yet, but people are telling me that their mortgages are coming down, that energy prices are coming down. So I think we are starting to see the economy turn around.
How can you say that you're cutting taxes when taxes are going up?
Because in our manifesto, we set out a number of taxes. We set out tax cuts for people who are working and employed.
The overall tax burden is going up. That's the numbers, that's the empirical truth, right?
There
so
are
you're
two,
not cutting
there
taxes.
are two key points. We are cutting individual taxes for a number
But you admit the tax burden's going up.
Well, let me deal with that in a minute, but I think it's really important.
I wonder, chat, what's the over or under on her actually acknowledging that point and admitting that taxes are indeed going up overall over time, that the tax burden is increasing. I wonder if she's actually going to get to that and admit it. I find that difficult to believe.
To emphasise that what we've announced today in the manifesto is a tax cut for people who are employed. Building on in terms of the national insurance cuts, building on what we've already set out. We've got tax cuts, which you refer to, for the self-employed. We've got tax cuts for pensioners, saying the state pension will never be taxed. And we've also got tax cuts for families. When you talk about, because I do want to answer the...
And again, like these tax cuts, especially in the terms of pensioners, are tax cuts that give people tax relief from taxes that you raised on people. Fiscal drag is what's bringing pensioners to having taxable income. You saying we're protecting you from taxes. Yeah, you're protecting them from your taxes, Lucy.
The point that Ed talked about in terms of tax burden overall, it was projected to be at a certain level. What we are announcing today is a tax cut of 1% year on year.
No, it's still going up, though. It's still going up.
Sophie, I think everybody understands.
Just acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it. It sounds like you're just evading it.
I'm absolutely not evading it. I think we need to be honest with people. And the honesty that we need to remind people of.
Okay, be honest with people. Admit that the tax burden is increasing. Was it like 8 times she's refused to answer it now?
The things I started with. We spent £400
be honest
billion
with people then. Be honest with people. Our taxes are still projected to go up under your plans. The overall tax burden.
We spent £400 billion.
No, you said you want to be honest with people. This is your chance.
Well,
That's right, isn't it?
So the projections at the moment show that tax levels will be X, and the result of the manifesto is that year on year on year on year, what we have managed to do is reduce that tax burden so that it will come down.
That's not correct.
That's not true. That's a fucking lie. It's explicitly going to increase. Every single projection, because of fiscal drag, shows the overall tax burden increasing. Personal taxes, you may be individually pointing to certain tax cuts that you're doing. Saying we are doing tax cuts is not the same as saying taxes are going down overall, because they literally are not. Yeah, literally just say it's going up less than it otherwise would have done. But she can't even admit that, because it literally is going to go up. After saying we need to be honest with people, she can't even be honest. It is super painful, isn't it?
The tax burden is projected to go up.
Well, what you saw from Ed's chart was the gap.
No, I'm not talking about the gap. I'm talking about the overall tax burden is projected to go up.
What Ed's chart showed was that we've managed to find tax cuts from what the position would otherwise be. And I think it's really important to state
it's going up less quickly, but it's still going up.
It's going to come down by 1% year on year on year from what it was projected to be. And the important thing is, the really important thing, Sophie, is that Labour are not offering any of those tax cuts. And instead of that, they are...
Literally, how many times? How many times? 13 times. 13 times. She's refused to answer the question about whether taxes are going to be going up or not.
We're offering tax rises, so people's taxes will go up by at least £2,000 if they vote for Labour and we get a Labour government. And I think that's a really important...
And that's just not true. That's a lie.
distinction to make between our manifesto and what we're going to hear from the Labour Party.
We will talk about the Labour Party plans later, including when they publish their manifesto, and also with Darren Jones later on the programme as well.
This literally might be worse than the Richard Holden, Emily Thornberry moment. Because at least the Richard Holden moment was just like random political chicanery in the background. Like, yeah, we all think that the parachuting of candidates is bad. But in terms of like the nuts and bolts of policy, that's what's really much more important to the public than whether or not Richard Holden got parachuted into a safe seat. I think this is absolutely worse than the Richard Holden moment.
I just want to look at your costings document, because I guess what I'm trying to work out, right, is, not talk about the rights or the wrongs, the policies, but trying to work out if this is a serious manifesto from a party that thinks it could have a chance of enacting these plans, right? Just looking at the kind of costings document, you're saying that you want to save £20 billion over the next Parliament, so going up to £6 billion by tackling the tax gap So cracking down on tax avoidance and evasion. I mean, that's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Let me be clear. It's a serious plan for a serious government. And I think what you've seen from the Prime Minister when he
It is funny that the usual questions that you get towards like the minnow parties, who usually get a few seats of, oh, well, you're just promising things because you know you're not going to get into government. The Tories are so like uniquely screwed in this election. They're treating them like they treat Plaid Cymru. They're treating them like they would treat an interview with a member of the Green Party and saying, well, you're not going to get into government, so this is why you're producing numbers that don't make any sense because you know you're never going to have to deliver on them. That's how they're being treated. Imagine if they had this much scrutiny of, say, I know the Labour Party, who they want to get access to. I mean, they literally admitted already that journalists are being easier on Labour because they expect them to form the next government, and they need to ensure that they don't screw over their political connections going forward. Just shows you how fair our democracy really is.
He was Chancellor and when he was Prime Minister, is that he is totally on top of the detail.
20 billion, do you really think you can get 20 billion pounds by tackling the tax
Well, you talked
gap?
about the tax gaps, so let me address that, because I was a Treasury Minister, I was Financial Secretary to the Treasury, and these are the sorts of submissions that were put to me, how much can we save in each budget? And the reality is that if you put more money into HMRC, so if you pay more people to work in HMRC, you do reduce tax avoidance.
Why didn't you do that before? Why haven't you done that before now? Why has it taken you 14 years to crack down on tax avoidance? Is it because the people who you know, who give you money, who donate to you, don't want to get their tax of activities scrutinised by HMRC, but you've got nothing else to run on now because Labour are promising to do that as well? That might be the only reason why they're promising it now.
We see it in every single budget. At the moment, in the last few years, we have managed through avoidance to recover over £90 billion. So yes,
so you're putting some more money into HMRC to do it?
You put in more money.
How much more money are you putting in?
That will... I can't tell you exactly what we put in, but it will all be costed. But what I can tell you, and be very clear...
You just said you can do it if you put money in, but you can't tell me how much money you're going to put into HMRC.
So there's a calculation which HMRC do for every single budget, and this manifesto is absolutely no different, that you can recover significant sums from people who are avoiding tax if you chase them. And
again, this would be fine if you'd have done it ages ago and not waited until the very last moment just before an election. All you're doing by having this policy is admitting that you failed on having an effective tax regime in this country.
We have in the past, over the last few years, recovered over £90 billion. So yes, I do think that £6 billion is realistic.
Another way you're planning on saving money is through Quango efficiency. So that's £1.2 billion a year. I mean, I remember the bonfire of the Quangos that you had last time. How are you going to kind of pick through the embers to find some more Quangos? What are Quango efficiencies?
Well, we're already in the middle of a review. So every single department is already doing reviews of its arm's-length bodies to see how it can get efficiencies. So I'm confident that those projections...
And again, like, first of all, why haven't you found the efficiencies before now? And second of all, you promised all of these efficiency savings during the coalition government. Over a decade ago, we were promised that all of this austerity wouldn't mean cuts to service provision. It would just be efficiency savings to make our public sector run better. What did it actually lead to? Oh, well, turns out cuts to these budgets actually led to reductions in service provision. No efficiency savings were found because actually our public sector is pretty darn efficient in the UK. It's been a long-standing public sector. We're not very corrupt. And actually we do have a pretty well-functioning and efficient public sector.
What is the Quango efficient? What is it?
Well, we have a huge number of arm's-length bodies where we give responsibility. We always need to keep it under review because we delegate responsibility to arm's-length bodies. They grow and grow and grow and grow. And I think it's absolutely right that we look at that.
I mean, Paul Johnson of the IFS put it quite succinctly, the Institute for Fiscal Studies. The Conservatives have promised £17 billion a year of tax cuts and a big hike in defence spending. Those are definite giveaways paid for by uncertain, unspecific and apparently victimless savings. Forgive a degree of scepticism. I guess this is my kind of wider point here, right? People are intelligent, the public is intelligent. They know debt is high, public services are being squeezed, the tax burden is really, really high, despite, you know, what you say. They know how difficult the economic picture is. And you're really saying you can cut all these taxes and do all those things and no one's going to have any bad decisions at all. It's all going to be done through tax evasion or quangos. I mean, that's just not realistic, is it?
Well,
I love that she started this with "the public are smart." She's stolen my line and then reworded it, because I keep saying that journalists should say to these nonsense statements, "Do you think my viewers are stupid?" And she's reworded that to "our viewers are smart. So if you disagree with me, you're going to treat my viewers like they're stupid." So you know what? Fair play to Sophie Ridge. I'm glad it took like years and years and the calling of an election and legal requirements on impartiality to force her to actually do her questioning properly. But this has been a pretty good interview so far. Really held Miss Frazer's feet to the fire and made her squirm.
Also a massive amount in relation to the welfare budget. What we're saying that is that absolutely we need to support people who need support, but at the moment the welfare budget for working aged people is absolutely significant. It's 59 billion pounds at the moment, going up to 90 billion pounds. And so a significant amount of money is also to make sure that people are not claiming benefits when they shouldn't be claiming benefits, and they can get out back into work, which is something that will also boost the economy as well.
On the benefits, there is concern about the knock-on impact that might have on families and children in particular. You know, I couldn't help but notice Rishi Sunak saying today that we reduce child poverty. I mean, that's not true, is it? Child poverty on every measure, relative poverty, absolute poverty, before housing costs, after housing costs. There are more children in poverty now, aren't there?
My understanding is the statistics are that we have reduced poverty, we've reduced poverty in work.
Literally just lying, just saying all of that poverty that's happened, that all of these independent adjudicators have said is existing. It's not true, it's not there. No, computer says no, just not there. And again, they have to believe this stuff, otherwise they would know that they are literally to blame for all of the child poverty. It's just like trying to get George Osborne to admit that 330,000 austerity deaths is true. Because you're just like, if you believed it, you'd have to believe that you were a mass murderer. You'd have to believe that you're responsible for more deaths than Idi Amin. And you'd therefore just have to say, well, the statistics must be wrong. I've got these different statistics to say that I'm right.
Plus households, we've got 4 million people more in employment.
I've looked at the child poverty statistics and I just don't think that's true.
I think it is true. I think it is true. And I think also what we have... But can I make something really clear? Because
literally, Zio, it's literally alternative facts. It's very Trumpian, isn't it? I know that's a kind of lib thing for me to say, and it's an overdone kind of canard now. But genuinely, it's genuinely Trumpian. It's just kind of like, yeah, no, actually, we have a different set of facts than you.
The choice, this election is a choice.
Literally, look at that face of disbelief you've got there. Just like, what the hell is this person saying? Just going, nuh-uh, nuh-uh, no. What, your figures are wrong, mate. Like, and I'm sorry, you can't just disagree with fact.
Election is a choice. It's a choice between a party who believes in tax cuts, who believes that you support people into work, who believes in aspiration and enterprise, and the choice is between that or the
who believes in enterprise. I don't even believe in enterprise. You elected a prime minister who said the phrase, and I quote, "fuck business." How can you just say these things with a straight face? It doesn't make any sense. Where's the business investment? Investment is still as like gigantic lows in this country. At least the Labour Party, the supposed Workers' Party, are at least actually being quote unquote pro-business by promising business investment from the UK Business Bank that you're not even doing. Even like the Trade Union Party, at time of recording, probably not for much longer at the very least, is more pro-business than pro-enterprise in the Conservative Party, who've overseen the lowest business investment in the period of this country ever, from the austerity period until now, who literally elected a man who said the words "fuck business." You couldn't make it up. You couldn't make it up.
Labour Party, and we've got absolutely no idea what they're offering. They're really scared to say what their plan is. You've got a really detailed plan from us. It's about 70 pages. We tell you exactly what we're doing in every single area, from a Prime Minister who is a details man, who understands figures, and that's why...
A details man? He couldn't even let you know that child poverty was rising.
I have confidence in our manifesto and the figures within it. And what we have from the Labour Party is they say you can make no savings at all from the welfare budget. Zero, even though it's going up to £90 billion. Okay. He's also saying that you're going to get tax rises and not tax cuts. That is the choice for people at the next election.
You're the Culture Secretary. What's more likely, England winning the Euros or Rishi Sunak winning the election?
I'd like both. Absolutely.
Go on, you've got to choose. Difficult decisions, that's what we're all about.
Well, look, I think
there's a bigger chance of Papua New Guinea winning the World Cup than the Conservative Party winning the next election. That's the long and hard truth of it. Jesus Christ, that was embarrassing. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.